I really like these Daniel Smith dot cards. I wanted to show you these. They are the Mineral Marbles, and I did some shorts showing my swatching process with those. And these are the Watercolor Confetti dot cards. I like them because on the regular dot cards, they're very small amount of watercolor, and on these, obviously, they put much more watercolor on it for you to swatch and to try out the colors on small projects. Over the past year or so, I've been working on making my own dot cards. I tested out some on cardstock and different types of paper. This is some student grade watercolor dots on watercolor paper, and this is the same student grade watercolor, but I use some different brands down here. To make this watercolor set that I have here, I used this student grade watercolor paper. I don't remember where I got it, but I think it might have been at Five Below. I divided up the paper into sections by tracing one of these as a template, and then I drew the lines to make different rectangles so I can cut them out and label them, and then there'll be small cards like these. Now you can actually, if you want, just put your dots in a row and make a whole sheet of dots, or like I did here, section it off just using a ruler and or another dot card as your template, sketching it out, and then adding your dots afterward. So I just cut a strip of watercolor paper so that I can show you how I added the watercolor to the paper. Now you definitely need the tube paint. It'll make it much easier to make your dots. You're going to open it and just apply a small amount to your paper. And since this one's narrow, I'll go in a row this way. So, and I'm going to leave a little space so I can write the color name on it. A little bit. And I just grabbed these colors because they were right on top of my container. And they're in tubes, so it's easy. Okay, and so you have 3 colors there, right? Then afterward, you're just going to, typically I write the color names down in pencil first, and then after they dry, they'll look like this. And then I'll go back in and write over the top of the pencil with a dark colored marker so it's easier to read. And I also make sure to put the brand name. I wrote the color name underneath each one. And then for these, I gave them my own title. So I called this one Classic. This one's C because it's white with a different color blue and dark teal. And this one Earth because it's a different reddish browns and black and China white, or Chinese white, I think it's called. And I did the same here. I wrote the brand, and then I wrote the color name underneath each one in pencil, but I didn't give this one a title. These were drying. It only took overnight for these to dry. I was pretty surprised. I thought it might take a couple of days. I mentioned before that I had used cardstock to test it out, the dot cards. They worked on here, but I didn't like it because it seemed like the cardstock absorbed more of the color. So when I went to use the dot and then swatch it off or use it for something else in my sketchbook, it actually seemed to go up into the cardstock. I don't know how to say it, except it seemed like it absorbed it instead of letting me swipe off a lot of the color. So that's why I steered away from the cardstock and I went back to using the watercolor paper. I'm just gonna go ahead and cut these out. Now if you have a, what is it called? A paper cutter, paper trimmer, you could even cut these ahead of time. It will make it much straighter. It'll come out really nice. And some of the paper trimmers even have special cutting edges to give it more, I don't know, give it more character or something interesting. I'll show you those. So they kind of look like these. Obviously these dots are much bigger, but you can make them as big as you want or as small as you want. I said that I wasn't a fan of how the watercolor works on the cardstock, but if you don't mind how it works on there, you might want to try it on a tag, on the back of a tag. This type of tag, it's a little diamond, and on the back I made samples of shimmer paints. I love shimmer paints or metallics, and so that's just another example of different ways that you can make your dot cards. To use the dot cards, I usually take a water brush or a paintbrush with water on it, and I just add a dot or a little bit of water to each one, each color, just to get it re-wet. It doesn't take a lot of water to re-wet it, but you do want to leave it on there for a little while. So I gave it about a minute. I let it sit for about a minute, and I'll show you how those work here. Yeah, that's fine. So this is the light yellow. Can you see? Move this over. Okay. So that you can see it a little better. Yeah, move things around. I should have did that before. Okay, so I'm just gonna go ahead. So you can take it and swatch. You can swatch it right on this paper, or grab some and put it on another sheet of paper. And like I said, when you're using dot cards, you can make little projects with them and just have fun testing out the different colors and seeing what you like. These are the student grade paints, which you can see how vibrant they are. They're fun to experiment with. You know, if you don't want to use your, and of course the white you can't really see. Let's see. Down here, I didn't wet these. These are the other three student grade paints that I have. This is ultramarine. It wasn't sitting long enough, so the color is very faint. I think when you let it sit, you get a full experience of the color. If you just wet it and use it straight away, you don't get the full color pigment, I guess. Okay, so those are those. Now, the reason why I like using the dot cards, whether I make them or I use the store brand, is because I can take these with me and travel without needing to have tubes or paints and palettes. I can just use my water brush, maybe one or two water brushes and a few cards, and I've got some supplies that I can use to sketch with in my journal or my sketchbook. Another reason why I like to make the dot cards is because I can actually share my paints with my art friends or family members, who like to paint and like to use art supplies, but maybe they don't have the same ones I do. I've been wanting to make this video for a while, and today I just got it together and just said, this is as good as it's gonna get. So I just went for it, and I hope that I explained it well enough, and I hope that you saw enough examples. This one's still not dry yet, but that's the one we made today. This one's still wet. Oh yeah, and our little shimmer one, don't want to forget that. Let me know if you like this art project and if you'd like to see more, and I'll see you in the next video.